Hey there, subject. I hope you're having a great day today. I have one big test for you to do.
Oh god dang, another test. Okay, lay it on me. Sound like I'm gonna do any more tests out of this.
Well, you see, I'm going to be viewing your gameplay on this monitor while I do this special project for me.
Okay, but what is your project?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Well, you see, my little brother's birthday is coming up, so I'm going to give him a great big present.
Huh, a lunatic with a family too.
Hey, I heard that, you fucko! But anyway, so since it's Halloween, I decided to give you 6 fan games to try out. While I tried to wrap presents for my brother. Unfortunately, I don't know how to wrap presents, so I'm gonna learn.
Five Nights at Freddy's, the classic genre that spooked millions. This franchise has an insane community that makes some of the most creative and most ambitious fan games you can think of since probably the Sonic community. These fan games can be very impressive, while being very But one of the most popular things a Five Nights at Freddy's fan game does is crossing over Five Nights at Freddy's with a certain series. You know, stuff like Five Nights at Sonic's and such. So it's obvious someone would eventually make a Mario Five Nights at Freddy's-like game. And thus, we have Five Nights at Wario's. Five Nights at Wario's is a series of 6 big fan games. Created by Wario, Five Nights at Wario's became one of the more classic Five Nights at Freddy's fan game series, which eventually spawned off to another fan games genre of Five Nights at Wario's fan games. So in today's video, I'm going to be forced to play through all 6 fan games and try to get the hell out of here by picking this lock.
I'm sorry, what?
Nothing. Just continue wrapping your presents. But anyway, so let's get started. So with the first Five Nights at Wario's game, it's pretty much a carbon copy of the first Five Nights at Freddy's game. You play as this man named Richard McRoy as he gets a new job at the new open Wario's factory. Years ago, Wario used to own this factory, but he became missing one day and never returned along with other people. Obviously they're dead, but years later as they try to open the new establishment, Wario suddenly appears in this zombified form. And if there's one thing I should mention about Five Nights at Wario's is its trademark presentation, where it's pretty much Photoshop characters. I know this series got a bunch of flack because of this, but honestly I don't really think that's a big deal, because it still gives out a good presentation away. Although if I can say one thing about the presentation is that the sound design in this game is surprisingly pretty good. Although I feel like this is a pretty solid fan game for what it's trying to be. But anyway, on to the next game. So a few months later, Wario created a sequel called Five Nights at Wario's 2. In this game, you play as a guy named Thomas Taylor in the newly opened WarioWare Corporation. And since this area is owned by Wario, that obviously means that Wario and his gang are gonna attack you. Interestingly though, the character from the last game appears in this game as the phone guy this time. Holy crap, they got the Nintendo YouTuber Nindako. But anyway, so in Five Nights at Wario's 2, just like the last game, it's pretty much like Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Not saying that it's a bad thing, but still, it's very similar. However, there's some key difference between the two. For one, lights in this game are very limited compared to the Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Because in FNAF 2, you have a special flashlight, but in FNAF... Oh. But anyway, so in order to light up the hallway in FNAF 2, you have to wait until lightning appears. And the only way to defend yourselves from these ghosts is to hide in the back room. This room is also where you wind up the power generator. However, you must not power the generator while a ghost is in there, otherwise they will kill you. So yeah, once again, this is another really solid Five Nights at Freddy's fan game. And once you beat the main game, you can also do other modes like a classic mode where it plays like the first game. Come on.
That's a thick-ass bar! Damn!
So with the last 2 games, it was pretty much identical to their original counterparts. But with this game, this is when Five Nights at Wario's finally got its own identity. So in this game, you play as a man named Edward Coleman as he gets a job watching over a house. Unfortunately, this place is a trap, as this place is extremely haunted. And even worse is that they barricade the door so there's no way he could escape. So in order to survive, he needs to hide in various rooms and defend himself for whatever he could. Now this is the main thing about Five Nights at Wario's 3, because in every night there's a different room for you to explore, and for every room there's a different mechanic for you to use. Whether it's using a certain object like a lamp for example, or just straight up using medicines to drug yourself. Yes, in Night 2, one of the main mechanics in Night 2 is literally drugging yourself to hide from the ghost. And I've gotta say, a lot of praise for this game is definitely worth it, because this is definitely the most variety I've seen in a Five Nights at Freddy's fan game. I'm not gonna go too much in depth with these games because I feel like it would ruin the surprise for some of these, but I highly recommend trying this one out especially. Once you beat the game, you can also try this new mode called Day Mode, where you need to find food and stuff to survive. Overall, it's a really great fan game. I highly recommend trying it out. So this is Five Nights at Wario's Origins. This game takes place in events before the first Five Nights at Wario's game. In this game, you play as Wario himself as he tries to guard his secret recipe for his burgers. Although if I know Wario, it's most likely his burgers are heavily based on garlic. But anyway, so as he guards the place, he suddenly sees himself in this demonic form, along with his other friends. You question why he would still stay there at night, considering that this place is clearly haunted and dangerous. Even the phone guy in this game asks Wario why is he still in there. But anyway, so in this game, Wario needs to defend himself by hiding in different rooms by running around. Interestingly, this is the only time where they actually use Mario elements to defend himself, as in order to stay hidden, he needs to eat an invisible mushroom. Unfortunately, the mushroom doesn't last for long, so you need to get a new one or wash it out. Eventually, later on in the nights, you're going to need to worry about the flashlight because the power will go out. Once you beat this night, you'll enter to Night 6, where it's pretty much Five Nights at Wario's 1. This is the night where the villain, Bruno Gate, killed Wario and co. and became demonic. And once you finish that area, you'll enter 2018 mode. Nothing seems very different from this game, it's probably just a different... Oh. So in 2018 mode, you have a bunch of brand new enemies to defend yourselves from. And I should reassure that these aren't the original Wario & Co., but demonic clones that are visually based on Wario ever since they got cursed. And I've gotta say, these variants are much more terrifying compared to the original versions. Let's go a bit off topic for a bit of the character designs in this game. So unlike most Five Nights at Freddy's fan games where it's mostly animatronic based on the characters, these are the characters but possessed and zombified. So most of the time it's pretty much them with dotted white eyes. But with these virus versions, they are pretty much mangled to the point where they are not recognizable. It weirdly reminds me of the old variation of Bendy, where it's trying to act like Bendy and look like Bendy, but barely considers and resembles Bendy, as the proportions are out of whack and everything. So yeah, overall it's another solid fan game. And once again, I highly recommend trying this out. Five Nights at Wario's 4 is interesting. This is probably the most unique game in the series, as instead of exploring the areas or being trapped into a haunted mansion and such, you're trying to defend yourself as Wario & Co. is trying to get you through the TV, similar to the movie The Ring. Interestingly though, you're playing as the same character as you did in the first game, Richard McCoy, who is having trauma after the events of that game. Although to put in the basics, the ghost from the previous game has latched onto him and he's being possessed, which is why he's constantly dreaming about these entities all night. It is definitely the most unique game in the series, I'll give them that. And if you finish all the games, you could do a special crossover feature where every area of the game will have a special Easter egg that goes to a different game. Think of it something like the swap and stuff from Banjo-Kazooie. Although I'm not going to go too deep into that because that has heavily story-based features in that. So if you're very curious on the story, WWR has made a video on it. I'm just here to talk about the main idea of the gameplay and such. So when Five Nights at Wario's 4 released, it was considered the final entry of the series. And for years, it really felt that way since there was no game ever since then. But during the year of 2020, a massive update on all 5 of the original games has appeared. And with that, we have one more big and brand new Five Nights at Wario's game called 5 Shows at Wario's. So in this game, you play as the main villain of this series, Bruno Gate, as he's in pretty much a purgatory called Gray City. In Gray City, he encounters a mysterious theater where he enters, but it's a trap. And now he is forced to try and do one big show, but in order to do so, he's going to need to play some minigames in order to survive. So here's how it works. You have 5 shows to choose from, where you can earn lives and such. The harder the show is, the more lives you get, and if you go through the show and win without dying once, you get a streak bonus. Throughout the minigames, you either have to go through various areas, help cook something, or repair something. If you feel like you've gathered enough lives, you can do the final show, where it's pretty much a 2D platformer gauntlet. After that, you'll enter the second mode of the game, the exit. In this mode, you're trapped in a house, so in order to go through the areas, you need to open up doors. However, you need to open one door every day, since every door you open unleashes an entity into the house. You must do whatever you can to make sure the entities do not enter the house, otherwise they will kill you. Once you complete that area, you'll have the final exit, where you're trapped into a small room where you need to barricade the doors and such. And last but not least, we have the factory, as the series went full circle as we return to the factory. Not only that, but we also have the reveal of the main villain of the entire series, Entity 01. Now this one actually plays like Five Nights at Wario's 3, where you have multiple rooms and such, but I want to talk about the office area because this is very interesting for me. So on paper, it's pretty much like Five Nights at Freddy's 1. You see a light, you see doors, you get the cameras and such, and bada bing, bada boom. But WWE Wario changed something about this gameplay system that drastically changes this, in my opinion. In FNAF 1, the cameras were mostly useless as you just mostly used it to watch Foxy, but here they're a lot more useful this time. As the lights in the blind spot are heavily discouraged because they drain significantly amounts of power, which gives you a good incentive to keep watching them on the cameras and such. So yeah, overall 5 shows at Wario's is really good. Out of all the Five Nights at Wario's games to try out, I highly recommend this one because it has the most amount of content and variety. And that's not even going to other stuff like the Coliseum mode where it's pretty much like a 2D gauntlet, and the special crossover feature that I'm not going to talk about because it is very interesting. And so, that was pretty much Five Nights at Wario's, the entire series. And overall, I feel like this was a pretty good fan game series. At first, it may have started out like a simple Five Nights at Freddy's clone, but with the third game going forward, it got itself its own identity. So yeah, there is a reason why people enjoy this fan game series.
Oh! Hey, good news, I just wrapped up my first present, and now I'm going for the next one. Oh no. I need to get him back or else I will never go to my dream college. But first I need to wrap up this present, because I will not let my brother down.